Hello everyone, welcome to Tech Sharmit. In this session, we are going to talk about another very important topic related to routers, that is router lifecycle and events. Okay, so there are so many events that are available during the router lifecycle, and in this particular session, we are going to discuss each and every theoretical concept related to that, and we will also explore like what is a router life cycle, why do we need it, what are the router events, why do we need it, and in which methodology we are supposed to use in order to write some custom logic. Okay, but before we proceed further with this session, I would like to recommend you to please go and check out the previously released sessions first, because they all are in proper sequence and sync. So if you follow them sequentially, then it would be much more easier for you to understand the ongoing topic. Because for time being, we are just mainly focusing on router life cycle and events. But prior to that, you should know what is router, why do we use router, and other basic concept that we have already discussed so far. Okay. Fine. Now moving ahead, let me show you here. You can see I have prepared some kind of notes for you, because I'm assuming that there are so many other listener who are also preparing a notes from these information. So for them, like I just prepared this thing in a very detailed way. So here you can see we have one thing that is heading Angular 19 course by Texture Myth. Post that I have just put one heading, one definition for the router lifecycle and events. So what it says Angular router provides a comprehensive set of lifecycle hooks, that means method, and events that allow you to respond to navigation changes and execute custom logic during the routing process. Okay, so when you want to execute a custom logic during the routing process, then in that case, if the feature that we are using, okay, is provided by the Angular router, a set of lifecycle hooks and event, and these sets of lifecycle and hooks and events allow us to respond to a navigation changes to execute a particular logic that we want to execute at particular stage of the Angular lifecycle. Clear? So I think with this definition, we are good with the actual definition that is given by the Angular. Now, I'm assuming that some of you directly watching this session, so it's very important for them to understand what is Angular router. Okay, so moving ahead, like before we talk about the router lifecycle, let me just quickly recap for you like what is Angular router, so that it would be easy for you. So here you can see the router in Angular is a built-in service that allows navigation between different views or component based on the URL. Okay, so this thing you can easily relate that when a router, we all know that router is a built-in service and it allows us to navigate between different views or component based on the URL. So if you click on a particular URL, it will take you from one component to another. It will take you from one view to another. That's simple, right? Then we have second point that says it turns your Angular application into single page application or SPA with a multiple views, and that is also a fact. That's why like we are calling it as a single page application, because it allows us to navigate to turn your application into single page application or SPA. Third thing is, instead of reloading pages, the router dynamically swaps component inside a single page. Okay, and that is why we are calling it as a single page, right? Because here we are not reloading the pages, the router dynamically swaps the component inside a single page. It also support lazy loading, guard, route resolver, and route parameter. So these are the all features that are provided by the Angular router. Now I think this thing is clear, like what is Angular router. Now we will talk about the what is router lifecycle. The router lifecycle refers to the complete internal process Angular follows whenever you move from one route to another. Okay, so let's say if you want to move from one route to another, so in that case, that complete internal process of Angular, which is followed by the Angular, is considered as a router lifecycle. So when it starts the moment a navigation request begin and ends when the target component is fully activated or when navigation fails. So this is an interview question, like when the router lifecycle event start and when it ends. Lifecycle router lifecycle. So you can simply answer that it starts the moment a navigation request begin and ends when the target component is fully activated or navigation fails. In both condition, in case of positive scenario, it will end when the component is fully activated where you are navigating, and in case if it fails due to any particular reason, then also it will be considered as a end of the life cycle. Clear? Now you can see here, this process goes through several phases such as recognizing the route, checking guards, loading modules, resolving data, and finally activating the component. So these all things goes into these all things are considered as a several phases, because we all know that there are multiple phases, right? That are processed at the time of Angular router lifecycle. And at each point, Angular emits specific events that indicate what is happening, and through which only we can say that yes, this particular stage is achieved. Now this particular stage is achieved, and on those events, like when it is emitting information, at that time we will write our custom logic. Okay, now let's talk about what are router events. So router events are the basically the notification that is emitted as a observable that show the progress of navigation. Okay, so in a, let's say if you clicked on a particular router link, so it will start this phase, like multiple phases will be occur. So at every stage it will provide some notification, okay, through those events. So that will allow us to find out the actual progress of the navigation. Okay, each event represent a stage in router's life cycle. Yes, that is also true. There is every stage of in a router life cycle represent a event of a router life cycle. You can use these events to react to the navigation. Yes, that is also true. uh, as I mentioned, like for implementing the custom logic, you can use these notification to react. Let's say at the beginning of this process you want to do certain kind of thing, you want to show a loading screen to the user, loading spin to the user, so you can use it. Okay, and same thing you can see in the examples also. It show or hide a loading a spinner, log page views, handle error or cancellation, measure lazy loading performance, how the router lifecycle works. So these all things comes under a lifecycle event examples. Route, router lifecycle events example. Clear? Now, before we conclude this session, let's quickly recap the entire process that are performed throughout this navigation process. So basically, we are going to talk about how the router lifecycle works. So you can see it's in a very simple way. Firstly, the navigation gets started. Secondly, route config start and uh, route config load start and route config load end in case if a lazy loading. Then route recognized, then guard check start, guard check end, resolve start, resolve end, activation start, activation end, and then navigation end, or maybe a cancel or a error. So these are the all important phases. Like broadly, we have classified them as these features, but you will find some other extra information also that we will be discussing at when we are going to talk about the practical example. Okay, so we will see each and everything practically also, like how it is working. But before that, let me tell you that this thing is something that we are going to learn with some practical example. But prior to that, we should know about the theoretical concepts also. Okay. So I hope this entire session is clear to all of you, where we talked about what is router life cycle, what is router life cycle events, and also we have talked about the flow of the life cycle, router life cycle, like how exactly it is working. So I am assuming that this session is completely clear to all of you. In case if you have any questions, queries, suggestion related to this, feel free to reach out to me through comment section. I would be more than happy to answer your all questions. And in the next session, we will discuss few more things. So thank you for watching Tech Sharmat.